What's the most legendary thing that happened at your school? Story 1. The Great Senior Prank of 2010. Alright, so back in high school, our senior class was known for being pretty mischievous. We weren't outright troublemakers, but we loved a good prank. One day, someone had the brilliant idea to pull off the ultimate senior prank. After weeks of planning and whispering in the hallways, the day finally arrived. We had coordinated with nearly half the senior class. At exactly 3 a.m., about 30 of us snuck into the school. Our plan? To fill the entire main hallway with cups of water. Like, thousands of them. Each cup only had a little bit of water, but we lined them up edge to edge, row after row. It took us hours, and we were all pretty sleep-deprived by the time we finished. When the first teachers and students started arriving around 7 a.m., the look on their faces was priceless. The principal had to call an emergency assembly to figure out how to handle it. They couldn't just walk through and spill the water everywhere, and moving each cup individually would take forever. So, they ended up using brooms and mops to gently nudge the cups aside, spilling a bit of water but keeping most of it contained. The whole school was talking about it for weeks. We didn't get in any real trouble because, technically, we didn't damage anything. But we definitely left our mark. That prank is still talked about today, 10 years later, as one of the most legendary moments in our school's history. Story 2. The basketball game that went down in history. Our high school basketball team was decent, but we were never champions. That all changed during my junior year. We were up against our biggest rival, a team we hadn't beaten in years. The gym was packed, everyone buzzing with excitement and a bit of anxiety. The game was neck and neck the entire time. It felt like a movie, honestly. With just seconds left on the clock, we were down by 2 points. Our star player, Mike, got fouled and went to the free throw line. The pressure was intense. You could hear a pin drop in the gym. Mike made the first free throw, bringing us within 1 point. The second free throw was even more critical. He shot, the ball circled the rim, and the entire gym seemed to hold its breath. Then, miraculously, it went in. The game was tied, but there were still a few seconds left on the clock. Our coach called a timeout and set up a play. The other team got the ball and tried to make a quick shot, but they missed. Our center grabbed the rebound and launched the ball down the court to Mike, who somehow got free. With literally 1 second left, he threw up a Hail Mary from half court. The buzzer sounded as the ball was in the air. Swish. Nothing but net. The gym erupted. People were jumping, screaming, hugging each other. It was absolute chaos in the best way possible. We hadn't just won a game. We'd made history. That moment became legendary, and Mike was a hero. Our win streak didn't last forever, but that game is still the stuff of legends. Story 3. The day the science fair blew up. Our school had a reputation for its annual science fair. It was a big deal, with students going all out to win the top prize. One year, this kid named Jake decided to build a homemade rocket. He was super smart and had been working on it for months. On the day of the science fair, Jake was ready to show off his creation. He had a little launch pad set up in the parking lot, and everyone was gathered around, excited to see it in action. Jake explained the science behind his rocket, and you could tell he was really proud of it. He counted down 3, 2, 1, and launched the rocket. For a moment, everything was going perfectly. The rocket shot up into the sky, and everyone cheered. But then something went wrong. The rocket started to spin out of control. Instead of going straight up, it veered off course and headed straight for the principal's car. The rocket smashed into the windshield, shattering the glass. Everyone went silent, and Jake turned pale. The principal, who had been watching from a safe distance, ran over. We all thought Jake was done for. But instead of getting angry, the principal started laughing. It turns out, he was a bit of a science geek himself and appreciated the effort. Jake ended up winning first place for his rocket, and the principal got a new windshield. That science fair became legendary not just for the rocket mishap, but because it showed how supportive and understanding our school community could be. Story 4. The food fight to end all food fights. So, picture this. It's a regular Friday lunchtime in the cafeteria. Everyone's just chilling, eating, and chatting. Out of nowhere, a meatball goes flying across the room. No one knows who threw it, but it lands smack in the middle of a senior's lunch tray, splattering sauce everywhere. For a second, there was this stunned silence. Then, chaos erupted. Someone else threw a piece of bread, and before you knew it, food was flying everywhere. It was like something out of a movie. People were ducking under tables, using trays as shields, and flinging whatever they could get their hands on. The teachers and lunch monitors were trying to regain control, but it was pointless. The whole thing lasted about 10 minutes, but it felt like forever. By the end, the cafeteria looked like a war zone. Spaghetti, mashed potatoes, and random bits of food were splattered all over the walls and floor. We all thought we were going to be in huge trouble, but surprisingly, the principal saw the humor in it. He gave a speech about how we needed to respect school property and each other, but he was smiling the whole time. We had to spend the rest of the day cleaning up, but no one got any serious punishment. That food fight became the stuff of legends. Every year, underclassmen would ask about it, and we'd tell the story like we were recounting some epic battle. It brought the whole school together in a weird way, and it's something none of us will ever forget. Story 5. The talent show surprise. Our school's annual talent show was always a big event. People would sing, dance, do magic tricks, the usual stuff. But one year, this shy, quiet girl named Emily signed up to perform. No one really knew what to expect because she was always so reserved. When her turn came, she walked on stage with just a guitar. She looked nervous, but then she started playing and singing. Her voice was incredible, like goosebumps level amazing. The whole auditorium was silent, just listening in awe. But the real surprise came halfway through her performance. She stopped playing and started talking about how music had helped her deal with some really tough times. She opened up about her struggles with anxiety and how singing was her way of coping. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. By the end of her performance, everyone was on their feet, cheering and clapping. Emily went from being the quiet girl no one really noticed to the star of the school overnight. She even ended up starting a school music club that's still going strong today. Emily's performance and her bravery in sharing her story became legendary. It wasn't just about her talent, but about the courage it took for her to stand up there and be vulnerable. It inspired so many of us to be more open and supportive of each other. That talent show wasn't just an event, it was a turning point for our entire school. Story 6. The mystery of the disappearing mascot. Our school had this huge, plushy tiger mascot named Terry. Terry was a big deal at all the sports events, and everyone loved him. So, when Terry went missing one day, it was like the whole school went into panic mode. Posters were put up, announcements were made, and even the local news got involved. It was wild. The mystery of Terry's disappearance became the talk of the school. People started coming up with crazy theories. Some said he was stolen by our rival school. Others thought he was hiding somewhere on campus as part of an elaborate prank. But no one knew for sure. A week later, during a pep rally, the gym lights suddenly went out. When they came back on, there was Terry, sitting right in the middle of the gym floor. Everyone went nuts. It turned out that a group of seniors had taken Terry as part of their senior prank. They'd been sneaking him around the school, taking pictures of him in different places and posting them online. The principal gave the seniors a stern talking to, but you could tell he was amused. The whole thing was done in good fun, and Terry was unharmed. The seniors got a bit of detention, but they became legends for pulling off one of the most elaborate pranks in school history. Terry the Tiger went back to his regular duties, but his week-long adventure is still one of the most talked about stories at our school. Story 7. The unexpected hero of the debate team. Our debate team was known for being pretty average. We weren't terrible, but we weren't champions either. That was until Steve, a quiet kid who usually sat in the back of the class and never said much, decided to join the team. No one expected much because he was so shy. At our first big competition with Steve, something amazing happened. The topic was announced, and Steve stood up to speak. He started off slow, but then he found his rhythm. His arguments were solid, his delivery was passionate, and he completely dominated the debate. We were all in shock. Steve led our team to victory that day, and we ended up winning the entire competition. It was like he transformed into a completely different person when he was on that stage. The whole school celebrated our win, and Steve became an overnight hero. He continued to lead the debate team for the rest of the year, and we ended up having our best season ever. Steve's story became legendary, not just because he was a great debater, but because he showed us all that you can never really judge someone by their quiet exterior. He inspired a lot of other students to step out of their comfort zones and try new things. The debate team victory wasn't just a win for the school, it was a lesson in not underestimating anyone. Story 8. The prom proposal that took everyone by surprise. Prom season was always a big deal at our school. People would come up with all sorts of creative ways to ask their dates. But no one will ever forget the year when Mark asked Sarah to prom. Mark was known for being a bit of a class clown, always making jokes and pulling pranks. So, when he said he was going to do something big for his proposal, we all expected something funny or outrageous. What we didn't expect was for him to commandeer the school's PA system. One morning, right before the first bell, Mark's voice came over the loudspeaker. He started singing this cheesy love song, and everyone thought it was hilarious. But then, halfway through the song, he started talking about how much Sarah meant to him and how he'd been too shy to tell her before. He ended with a heartfelt plea for her to go to prom with him. By the time he finished, the entire school was gathered around the PA system, listening. Sarah was in tears, and she ran to the office to give Mark her answer in person. She said yes, of course, and the whole school erupted in cheers. That proposal became legendary, not just because of how over the top it was, but because it showed a different side of Mark. He wasn't just the class clown, he had a big heart too. It's still talked about every prom season as the gold standard for how to ask someone out. Story 9. The day the substitute teacher fought back. We had this one substitute teacher, Mr. Thompson, who was known for being pretty chill. He'd let us watch movies or do whatever we wanted when our regular teacher was out. But one day, he surprised everyone. Our class was particularly rowdy that day, and no one was listening to him. People were talking, throwing paper airplanes, and generally being disruptive. Mr. Thompson tried to get our attention a few times, but it wasn't working. Then, out of nowhere, he stood up on the desk and shouted, "Enough!" The whole class went silent. Mr. Thompson then jumped down and started picking up the paper airplanes and trash we had thrown around. He gave this impromptu speech about respect and how he wasn't there just to babysit us. He told us about his time in the military and how he believed in discipline and respect. It was like a switch flipped in the room. We all felt pretty ashamed of how we'd been acting. From that day on, whenever Mr. Thompson was our sub, we treated him with the utmost respect. He went from being the easy sub to one of the most respected adults in the school. Mr. Thompson's story became a lesson in our school about respect and not underestimating people. It's a story that gets passed down to every new class as a reminder to always treat substitutes with the same respect as our regular teachers. Story 10. The unexpected dance-off. During my sophomore year, our school hosted a spring dance. It was supposed to be a fun, low-key event, but it turned into something legendary. The DJ was playing some pretty good music, and everyone was having a good time. Then, out of nowhere, a dance-off broke out. It started with two guys from the football team who were joking around. They started doing these goofy dance moves, trying to outdo each other. Then a couple of girls from the dance team jumped in, showing off their actual dance skills. Before we knew it, there was a huge circle in the middle of the gym, and people were taking turns showing off their best moves. The DJ caught on and started playing some epic dance battle music. Even the teachers got into it. Our math teacher, Mr. Riley, busted out some surprisingly good breakdancing moves, and the crowd went wild. The principal even did the worm, which had everyone laughing and cheering. The dance-off lasted for about an hour, and by the end of it, everyone was sweaty and exhausted, but we all had huge smiles on our faces. It was one of those spontaneous moments that brought everyone together, and it made that spring dance unforgettable. The dance-off became a tradition at our school dances after that. Every year, people would look forward to it, hoping to see if the teachers would join in again.